You're ruining Christmas. My sister screamed when I said my kids and I were leaving early. We haven't even done gifts yet. I smiled. You're right. Here. I handed her an envelope. She opened it excitedly, expecting a check. Instead, invoice for 8 years of borrowed items never returned. $16,000. Her jaw dropped. Mom grabbed it. This is unreal. I shrugged. So is expecting me to keep giving to people who don't respect me. Payment due January 15th. By 9 p.m., I had your ruining Christmas. My sister screamed when I said my kids and I were leaving early. We haven't even done gifts yet. I could feel my son stiffen next to me. My daughter's fingers tightened around my wrist. They'd been sitting on the floor for an hour watching their cousins open. Just a few early presents that somehow didn't include them. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced a smile. You're right, I said. Here. I pulled the thick cream envelope from my flannel pocket and held it out. Kelly's eyes lit up. She actually did a little bounce on her toes. Of course, she thought it was a check. In her mind, that was my role. Bart the builder. Bart the wallet. Bart, who understands that family helps family. She tore it open like it was a lottery ticket. Her smile slid off her face. Invoice for 8 years of borrowed items never returned. She read out loud, voice going thin. $16,000. What the hell is this? Mom snatched it from her hands, already squinting. This is unreal. She snapped, looking up at me like I'd kicked her dog. I shrugged. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. So is expecting me to keep giving to people who don't respect me. I said, payment due January 15th. The room went quiet. You could hear the fake logs crackling in the gas fireplace. Behind me, my daughter whispered, Dad, can we go now? Yeah, kiddo, I said. We're done here. By 9 p.m., I had every family dollar moved back into my own accounts, and their entire kitchen remodel can-led with one confirmation click. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm Bart, 39. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a construction foreman. The guy who shows up in steel-toe boots, makes sure the walls are straight, the beams are level, and nobody cuts their fingers off doing something stupid. I'm also a divorced dad of 2. Ethan is 12, all angles and headphones and sarcasm. He pretends he doesn't care what people think, but when he goes quiet, that's when I know he's hurting. Maddie is 9, soft voice, big brown eyes, hair that's always half out of her braid by noon. She draws little houses and floor plans on any scrap of paper she can find. Says she's going to be a builder like Daddy, but with more glitter. Their mom and I split things 50-50. I get Christmas Eve and Christmas morning on even years. This was my year. My parents live about 30 minutes away in the same split level I grew up in. My sister Kelly lives 5 minutes from them in a 3-bedroom ranch she calls her fixer-upper, and I call my unpaid portfolio because I've put more free labor into that place than some of my paying jobs. It started small. Bart, can we borrow your drill? Just for the weekend. Hey, you still have that pressure washer? Ours died, and Dave wants to clean the deck before the barbecue. You've got a truck, right? Can you help us pick up a couch? We'll give you gas money. They never gave gas money. Then it wasn't just tools, it was money. The time their minivan died, and they just needed a short-term loan for a used one. $3,000 I never saw again. The time Mom's furnace went out mid-January, and I paid the $1,200 emergency repair because your father's blood pressure can't handle the cold. The time Kelly called on a Thursday crying because they were a little short on the mortgage after Dave's hours got cut. I transferred $600 from the grocery envelope and ate ramen for 2 weeks. I told myself it was what you do when you're the one who made it, when you're the steady one. When everyone jokes that you're the responsible kid. And every Christmas I overcompensated for the rest of the year by showing up with extra gifts, bigger Lego sets, nicer headphones, name brand and jackets. I wanted my kids to feel like they belonged, even if my parents had a way of making them sit on the edges of every room. It wasn't always like that, but somewhere between my divorce and Kelly deciding that my career meant I must be loaded, I stopped being a son and brother and turned into an open wallet with calloused hands. The pattern with my kids started as little things. My parents started watching Kelly's kids every Wednesday so Kelly can get some time to herself. When I asked if they could pick up Maddie and Ethan once or twice a month so I could take a Saturday overtime shift, Mom said, "Honey, we're not as young as we used to be. 3 kids is enough." 3. She meant Kelly's 3. Mine apparently didn't count toward the grandparent limit. Last Easter, there were color-coded baskets lined up against the fireplace. Blue for Jacob, green for Olivia, yellow for Sam, fancy cellophane, personalized tags. Ethan and Maddie got 2 plastic grocery bags with loose candy and a couple of Dollar Tree toys. "We weren't sure you were coming," Mom said when Ethan's face fell. I'd RSVP'd a month before. For Jacob's 10th birthday, I spent a full weekend building a custom loft bed with a slide. Material at cost, Laborie. It was a hit. Photos all over Facebook. Hashtag best uncle ever. 6 months later, Ethan's birthday rolled around. I invited everyone to our house. Mom texted the night before that they weren't feeling up to the drive. Kelly said Sam had a cold. No one showed. Ethan pretended he didn't care and spent his party teaching himself to frost cupcakes. He kept checking his phone. I should have seen it then, but I didn't. I kept patching, the borrowed items got bigger, too. A laser level I bought when I first got promoted. Gone. My framing nailer loaned for a weekend. Never returned. The generator I brought over just in case during an ice storm. Still sitting in Dad's garage. Pieces of my livelihood scattered across their houses like casual decorations. One night after Kelly forgot to pay me back for the 3rd time in a row, I sat at my kitchen table and opened the Notes app on my phone. New note, family borrows. I started scrolling through my brain and writing things down. Date, item, or amount. Who took it? Return, when. I didn't do it to send an invoice. I did it because I felt like I was losing my mind. Like maybe I was exaggerating, like maybe I was the problem. 8 years later, that note had to be exported to a spreadsheet. The last straw didn't come out of nowhere. It started in October when Kelly decided she needed a new kitchen. Not fancy, she said, walking me through her cramped galley like she was on HGTV. Just knock down that wall. Move the sink. Maybe an island. White cabinets, quartz. Oh, and can we do one of those big farmhouse sinks? I did a quick run in my head. Material, labor, subcontractors. Kel, that's a $40,000 to $50,000 job. Easy, I said. Even with my discounts. She laughed and smacked my arm, right? But you don't charge us labor, family, and all that. I told her I designed something modest. Work up a quote. I spent my lunch break sketching layouts. I stayed late one night at the office to price out cabinets on my trade account. The number I came back with was $18,000 it cost if I did almost all the labor myself on nights and weekends. Kelly stared at the paper like it offended her. I thought you said you'd help. This is helping. I said you're getting a whole kitchen and months of my time it cost, but you still have to pay for the materials. She sighed, rolled her eyes. We just don't have that kind of cash right now. Can't you float it? You know we'll pay you back. The note on my phone flashed in my brain. All the N's in the return column. No, I said not this time. She didn't yell right away. That came later, but she did go quiet in that way. I know too well that you'll pay for this one quiet. The punishment came as little things directed at my kids. Suddenly, when my parents took all the grandkids to the pumpkin patch, there weren't enough tickets for Ethan and Maddie. When they did cousins movie night, my kids weren't invited, because it's just better to keep it simple this time. I told myself they were oversights, miscommunications. I didn't want to believe they were using my kids to punish me for saying no. Then came Christmas. Christmas Eve at Kelly's was supposed to be not perfect, but bearable. We'd go over there in the afternoon, do dinner, presents, then I'd bring Ethan and Maddie home and tuck them into their own beds. Christmas morning at my place. Christmas afternoon at their mom's. It was a working system. From the minute we pulled up, it fell off. The driveway was already packed. Both my parents' cars, Kelly's SUV, her husband's truck, some neighbor's minivan. Lights blazing. Music too loud. Smell of ham. And those frozen rolls they pretend are homemade. Ethan grabbed the tray of cookies we'd baked. Maddie carried a carefully wrapped shoe box she'd decorated herself. Inside was a little model house she'd made out of cardboard and popsicle sticks. She'd painted it yellow like Aunt Kelly's, but not falling apart. She was so proud of it, she wouldn't let me put it under the tree on the drive over. Held it on her lap the whole way. We walked in stamping snow off her boots. Dad barely glanced up from the game. Mom did her usual. "Oh, you made it." Like we crashed the party. Kelly swooped in, kissed the air near my cheek, and took the cookie tray. "You're late," she said. It was 3:10. The invite said 3. "Kids," she called over her shoulder. "Presents in half an hour. Go wash your hands." Ethan gave me a half smile and disappeared down the hall. Maddie hovered near the tree, looking at all the shiny boxes. "Should I put it here?" she whispered, holding up her shoebox. "Yes, sweetheart," I said. "Right in the front, so she sees it." Kelly's kids tore through the house like they'd been mainlining sugar for 2 days. My parents trailed behind them, laughing, snapping pictures, asking them what Santa was bringing. No one asked Ethan or Maddie anything. We did dinner. Ham, potatoes, green beans, the usual. Dad made his yearly comment about my construction diet when I went back for seconds. Kelly joked that Ethan was hitting a growth spurt. Finally, Maddie barely touched her plate. Then it was time for gifts. "Okay, everybody in the living room," Mom called. Kelly's 3 took their spots in front of the tree like seasoned professionals. Ethan and Maddie sat a little back cross-legged on the carpet. Mom and Kelly had a system. One of them would read the tags. The other would hand out. "Jacob," Mom said, tossing a box the size of a microwave from Nana and Papa. He got a gaming headset and a stack of games. Olivia from Aunt Kelly and Uncle Dave. A tablet. Sammy from Santa. Some huge remote control car. The pile under the tree shrank. Wrapping paper flew. Kids shrieked and took pictures of their toys like tiny influencers. Ethan smiled politely when he accidentally got hit with a stray bough. Maddie leaned into my side. "Which ones are ours?" she whispered. I glanced at the remaining gifts. There were only a few small envelopes left stacked on the side table. Probably those. I lied. They weren't. Those turned out to be gift cards for the neighbor's kids who stopped by earlier, and a folded-up card for Mom's hairdresser. Eventually, the floor was a mess of boxes and toys. My kids had nothing in their laps except the shoebox Maddie had brought. Mom brushed her hands together. "Well," she said, "that's most of it. Santa will bring the rest in the morning." Maddie's voice barely made it out. Did we get any?" You know that feeling when the room tilts like a step was missing on the stairs and your stomach drops? That Kelly laughed like it was all one big joke. "Oh, sweetheart. We did most of the kid gifts with the cousins last weekend." She said, "You weren't here. No one had told me about last weekend. I figured your dad would handle your presents anyway." She added, "You know, since he's the one with all the money." The room laughed. Not belly laughs. That ugly thin chuckle people do when they're choosing a side. Ethan's ears went pink. Maddie stared down at her shoebox. "I made you something," she said, voice shaky. "For your kitchen." She held it out. This little crooked house with painted flowers and glue strings still clinging to the roof. Kelly took it like it was something she hadn't ordered. "Oh," she said, "that's cute." She set it on the TV stand, not even near the other gifts, next to an old cable box and some dust. Something in my chest snapped, but I kept my voice level. "We're going to head out," I said, standing. Kelly spun around. "What? You're leaving?" "We haven't even done the adult gifts yet." Ethan was already gathering his coat. Maddie clutched her boots and that empty shoebox. "Yeah," I said. "We've been here all afternoon. I'm not keeping them out until 10 so they can watch other people open things." "You're ruining Christmas." Kelly's voice shot up an octave. "We haven't even done gifts yet." That's when I realized she meant the envelope she assumed I'd bring. The one I brought the last 3 years. Fat with a check for the roof, for the car payment, for whatever. She hadn't thought about my kids once. "You're right," I said. "Here." I pulled the envelope from my pocket. The invoice wasn't some spur-of-the-moment petty move. I'd spent a whole Sunday putting it together after Ethan asked why Grandpa always joked about me being cheap while I was paying for their internet and half their groceries. I printed it on thick paper because part of me wanted it to feel as real as it was 8 years. Every can you spot us till Friday that never came back. Every we'll replace it promise tool that just turned into theirs. Line items like DeWalt 20V Max drill set loan 03/14 lost $299. 3500W generator loaned during ice storm never returned $750 truck rental equivalent moving Kelly's furniture every time she redecorated 12 trips $75 per trip $900 short-term loan for minivan $3,000 emergency furnace repair $1,200 mortgage help documented $600 x 7 months for $1,200 miscellaneous smaller borrowed amounts itemized on attached sheet $5,651. Total $16,000. Due date January 15th. Notes, not a demand, a record. Going forward, no unpaid borrowing. I knew they would never pay it. That wasn't the point. The point was to stop feeling crazy for noticing the pattern. So when Kelly opened it and went pale when Mom grabbed it and called it unreal, I wasn't surprised. What had surprised me was the way Dad spoke up. "This is low, Bart," he said from his recliner. "Money shouldn't come between family." I looked at my kids, at Ethan, pretending he didn't care. At Maddie, cheeks flaming, still empty-handed. "It's not the money," I said. "It's what you do to my kids, and expect me to keep paying for the privilege of watching it." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Kelly folded the invoice up like she could make it disappear. "So that's it," she snapped. "You're just cutting us off." I shrugged. "I'm done being your backup bank," I said. "And I'm definitely not funding a family my kids aren't part of. No yelling, no storming." I just picked up the tray our cookies had come on, handed Ethan his coat, helped Maddie with her boots, and walked out. By 9 p.m., the kids were in fresh pajamas on my couch, half watching some animated Christmas movie. Maddie was curled into my side, doodling tiny houses on the back of an old receipt. Ethan was scrolling, pretending not to be waiting for someone to text him. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and my bank app pulled up. There was a family emergency fund savings account with my name and my parents' name on it. I'd opened it years ago when Dad's blood pressure got bad. I was the only one who'd ever put money into it. $100 every Friday automatically. There was $5,400 sitting in there. I transferred every cent into a new account under my name only. Label Kids College/Emergency. Transfer complete. The screen set. Next, I opened the cabinet supplier portal. At Kelly's insistence, I had gone ahead and placed a hold on a set of mid-range white shaker cabinets last month just in case she found a way to pay for them by New Year's. They were scheduled to ship January 3rd, $10,000 worth on my trade account. I'd put down a $2,000 deposit to lock in the sale price. I clicked Cancel Order. A pop-up window appeared. "Are you sure? Deposit will be returned to original payment method within 3 to 5 business days." I stared at it for a long second. Yes, I clicked. The confirmation email hit my inbox before the movie ended. That was my one big decision. No more joint accounts. No more trade orders. No more will pay you back. By 9 p.m., every pipe between their lives and my wallet was shut off. I didn't text them to announce it. I didn't send a dramatic follow-up. I just sat back on the couch, pulled Maddie closer, and watched a cartoon reindeer figure out family better than any of us had. The fallout started the next morning. My phone was vibrating on the nightstand before the sun was fully up. "First, Kelly, are you serious right now? You humiliated me in front of everyone. Mom cried all night. The kids are devastated. No mention of my kids. Then, Mom, we need to talk about last night. You blindsided us. That invoice was cruel. We've always been there for you." I thought about the list in my notes. The times they'd been there usually involved me fixing their house or buying something. I didn't answer. Around noon, Dad finally called. I let it go to voicemail. "Bart, it's your father," he said, using that tone like I might have forgotten. "This tantrum of yours has gone on long enough. Money is money. Family is family. You don't mix the two. I re-listened to that part twice. They've been mixing them for years. I just stopped pretending I didn't notice. I texted back one thing. I'm not your backup bake. I'm your son. If you want a relationship with me and my kids, it can't be based on what I pay for. I put the phone face down and went to make grilled cheese for lunch. They didn't respect the text, of course. The day after Christmas, they showed up in person. I was in the garage reorganizing my tool wall, hanging the few things I still had on my own hooks, when I heard a car door slam. Ethan popped his head out. "Grandma and Grandpa are here," he said, voice tight. Maddie was at the kitchen table coloring. She straightened when she heard. I wiped my hands on a rag and met them at the front door. Mom pushed past me like she still owned the place. Dad followed Invoice folded in his hand. "We're not doing this," Mom said immediately. "You embarrassed us, and you owe your sister an apology." I leaned against the door frame. "For what?" I asked. "For making a scene for that bill." She waved the papers like they were contaminated. "Family doesn't keep score." Maddie was peeking from the hallway now, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "I didn't make a scene," I said. I quietly handed Kelly a record of what I've been giving. "I'm not asking you to pay it. I'm asking you to stop expecting me to add to it while my kids sit there and watch you treat them like extras in someone else's movie." Dad snorted. "Oh, come on. They're kids. They don't notice that stuff." Maddie's face fell just enough that I noticed. Ethan's jaw clenched. I stepped aside so my parents could see them. "They notice," I said. "They notice when they're the only ones without gifts. They notice when their drawings get put in a pile while Jacob's gets framed. They notice when Nana posts pictures from Family Day and they're not in any of them." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. "We didn't mean anything by it," she said finally. "I don't care what you meant," I said. "I care what you do. So here's where we're at. I'm done sending money. I'm done fixing things for free. If you want to see us, you can. But you bring the same respect for my kids you give to Kelly's. Or you don't come at all. You can't just cut us off." Kelly's voice screeched from the yard. I looked past my parents and saw her coming up the walkway now, coat half zipped, hair in a messy bun, face already flushed. "So this is about money," she demanded. "You're punishing us because you decided to be petty and tally every little thing." I took a breath. "It's not about the money," I said. "It's about boundaries. I won't fund a family my kids aren't part of." The words came out calmer than I felt. Kelly laughed. "High and ugly. You think you're better than us because you've got a decent job and a truck," she said. "You love holding things over our heads." I thought about that canceled kitchen order, about the deposit already on its way back to my account. "No," I said. "I made good on what I promised. I put in time, money, tools. You're the ones who held my kid's place in this family over my head." Dad stepped forward like he was going to say something. But for once, Mom touched his arm and held him back. "We'll talk when you've calmed down," she said. "I am calm," I said. I opened the door wider, just enough to make the next part clear. "You're off my accounts. You're off my trade lines. You want help? You hire a contractor and pay him. You want gifts? You can wait for Santa. For me, I'm going to focus on the two people in this house who, actually, are my responsibility." I looked at Ethan and Maddie when I said it. Then I stepped back and held the door open. No yelling, no crying, just a line drawn across the threshold. Mom's face hardened. "Fine," she said, "but don't come crawling back when you need us." I almost laughed. "When I needed you," I said, "you were busy asking if I could swing by and fix your gutters." They left. No hug, no Merry Christmas. Just the sound of their car backing out of my driveway too fast. January was quiet in a weird way. The family group chat, normally full of memes and passive-aggressive links, went silent, except for my Aunt Paula, sending a random recipe once in a while. Kelly did not pay the invoice by the 15th. I didn't expect her to. What she did do was send a long text that day. "We're not paying your stupid bill. You've always thought you were better than us. Mom and Dad are heartbroken. By the way, I hope your kids are happy you destroyed their relationship with their grandparents." I stared at it for a minute and typed back. My kids didn't destroy anything. You did. Doors open if you ever decide to treat them like they matter more than your shopping list. Then I muted the thread. A few days later, my Uncle Mike called. He's Mom's older brother, the one who shows up to help people move and never asks for beer money. Just so you know, he said, half the cousins think you're a legend now. I laughed because it felt ridiculous. I'm not a legend, I said. I just stopped paying to be disrespected. He hummed. You'd be surprised how rare that is in this family, he said. Over the next year, I stopped being their midnight repairman and their emergency bank. I took extra shifts, replaced my drill and generator, and etched my initials on everything. The money that used to vanish into the family fund went into a 529 for Ethan and Maddie. My parents' contact faded to one bland card, but Aunt Paula, Uncle Mike, and Cousin Jay still showed up for the kids. I'm on Bart's side here because his kid sat for an hour watching cousins open just a few gifts and got nothing, and he didn't guess. He tracked 8 years of missing tools and loans and put a $16,000 invoice with a January 15th deadline in an envelope. What this story teaches us is that helping without clear terms becomes a lever others can pull. First, document every loan or favor in one place. Dates, amounts, returns, and follow up with one calm written message that sets the rule going forward. Second, secure your finances, remove shared access, stop joint family accounts, and never place orders or deposits like that $2,000 cabinet hold without a written agreement.